Episode 72 of the BIC podcast, back on the recorded format, although we did have a very successful live stream format. And thank you to everybody who supported the 2 live streams last week. So we were able to continue the longest running episodic, whatever the hell this is. We were able to do it, which is wonderful. Wonderful. And one of them is even Eric Less. So thank you to Yannick for participating in that one. I will talk more about it on the other side of the intro, but I just wanted to say thanks to everybody for supporting the live streams. But we're going to talk about that a little bit and also talk a little bit. I'll start giving a couple more Expo related stories from the Spring Expo. We'll talk about that and more in this episode of the BIC podcast. Back under the gaze of Brett Favre, protecting us as always. But first, back from death, we've got Eric. Send us the door. Eric, how's it going?
I'm feeling a lot better, thank you. As you guys know, I was down for the count for all of last week. The flu hit me, had the fever, had the chills, had the sweats, the cough, the headache, just bedridden for a week. So I'm up and about, still have the cough. It raises its ugly head every once in a while, but I'm functioning.
And of course, as I mentioned kind of on the pre-show, but I'll mention here, I'll save some of the stories to protect the innocent and not so innocent. I did get a chance to hang out with some of Eric's clubhouse brethren, and of course, they had nothing but love and respect and admiration, and wishing you nothing but the best.
Nope.
Not even a little bit.
Were they celebrating for Eric? Because I want to give a huge, massive congratulations to Eric. I am proud of you.
Oh, you're the first.
You actually got a series right in the NHL playoffs.
Woo! It broke the streak.
Finally, it happened. So,
it was the most obvious series that we all got correct, but still,
I had to give the respect where it was, because after last year's impressive nature, I had to point out he finally got a series right.
Yep. Yeah, I think I'm doing okay. I think things are leaning in the directions in which I think they were going to lean. So
I think most of this first round, honestly, has played very chalk. Like, it's been some of it. I'll go and recap. I'll go and review the picks. Obviously, there's going to be some mix and match because some of us pick different outcomes. So somebody's going to get it right. But even still, like, some of it, I will say, I'm a little disappointed in some of these series. I would like to have been some of them to have been a little bit more competitive. It's been like, not great. We can touch on it in a couple of minutes, but I want to make sure we finish up. So Brandon first. So thank you for congratulating Eric. But how are you otherwise?
Good outside of being tired. We can get into it further, but just touching on the playoffs, I told y'all the other night, that game, what was that, Saturday night, I guess? I had gotten up at 5:30 Saturday morning, and when I looked at like what they had it scheduled at 10:30, I knew it was going to be later than that. I will be honest, I bowed out. I did not get to see the ending. Luckily, Stars pulled it out, but in overtime. But man, I'm telling you, it's rough on the West Coast times. Like, I don't know why on a Saturday they couldn't have pushed the damn games up a little bit and like not made it so late. But I guess I can't complain.
Yeah. Trying to watch the Oilers play at 10:30 at night, man. It's especially when you're sick and you're dying. And it's like, all right, come on, get through the first period,
It's not. I
easy.
had to bow out. I couldn't finish the game the other night.
I think it helped me quite a bit that I was doing the live stream with Yannick. So I mentioned it a little bit that when we were doing it, and like I mentioned a little earlier, so thanks to Yannick for participating in it and contributing very well. His first expo, doing it as a dealer, but he also had success as a collector. And by the way, I will let him share. He did find more cards on Sunday. He added more to his holdings on Sunday. Some fancy stuff. If you like the hockeys, he added some fancy hockeys. So he did add some more of that.
he's got nicer cards than me now, and it's like I
Low bar, but true. Low bar, but true.
Yeah.
So that is fair. That is an accurate statement. Yes.
Yeah.
But like I said, he did add some more. He did add
Yeah.
some more nice ones
Yeah.
at the expo. Very successful expo for him, I would say. And I did share in the video. So we're recording this on the Monday night, and this will air on the Tuesday. But on the Monday, I did record my kind of final recap episode, showing off the last couple of cards. So obviously this will appear on Tuesday. But I did pick up a vintage card. So I picked up a 60 Topps Willie McCovey.
Oh, nice.
You're in a 3. And this is actually from the showcase of one Yannick. So I purchased an item from Yannick and contributed to his dealership escapades. So he had a nice card that I could use. Win-win situation. We were able to make it work and make a deal, but it seemed like he had a good time and had a good successful participation there in the table with the Burrell.
So all the stuff that's been coming through my office all ended up on a table for him up there, huh? Is that what it all ended up happening?
I have no idea what was in the boxes, but sure. For the sake of this conversation and the story, I'd like to think that you basically made possible all of Yannick's personal fortune.
I didn't get any fortune out of it though.
No, absolutely not. No. You are like a man having a birthday when it's not his birthday and burning his fingers on a sparkler. That's the analogy I would use that I completely made up. That is a completely made up analogy.
Yeah, if something like that ever happened to somebody, I would laugh and make fun of them.
And I did. I mean, in theory, I would.
Yes.
A hearty cackle.
Yeah.
Quite a hearty cackle. But yes, indeed. Some of the best stories will never see the light of day fully and officially. They can be alluded to, but never be spoken of in full words. Yeah. So, Brandon, something to look forward to for Fall Expo.
Oh, dude. You don't even want to be around these idiots.
It can only get better or worse. Okay, so real quick, I like I said, like I mentioned to you guys before recording, we're going to talk a little bit of the Spring Expo, talk about a couple of specific things. Since I said, I've got the video where I show off what I picked up, so that's already kind of covered, but that's why I'll show a couple of these things as well. And then also, but I will add a couple of little stories here and there. And then I'll do the same thing on Friday. I wanted to kind of save a couple of the stories along the way so that we could have a little fun with it. I will share one more that was pertaining to Sunday, because this was after the live stream and after all that. So one of the things was kind of interesting is it gave me one more opportunity to kind of make the rounds. Usually on Sunday, it's kind of a chill day. I did make a couple purchases at the end, had a little bit of fortune. I'll share. I already shared one of them on the Monday video, but I will share it again. And one of them was over at AMG. They had actually acquired an Upper Deck authenticated lot, so to speak. I guess that would be the best way to describe it. They had a bunch of different stuff from UD Authenticated that they were purchased as part of a collection. And, Steve over there at AMG, collector of the scalps, collector of the people, many nicknames. He basically proposed it to me, much like a mystery box kind of thing. He goes, Carlos, give me $10 and I will give you something. I'm paraphrasing. That's basically what he said. And I was like, I'm a gambling man for $10. All right, what do you got? What do you got? So then he hands me this. He hands me this tube.
Ooh.
What's in the tube? Anything could be in the tube, even a boat.
Poster?
It was a poster, yes. And I did, like I said, I shared it on the Monday video, but I'm going to share it for you guys. So this here, I'm not going to unfurl it right now because I'm going to frame it later. So bottom line is there's a poster in there. But I was able to find an example of one of these on eBay. So it will include the watermark from the eBay seller. So if any of you want to buy your own, you can go find the eBay seller. The watermark will be on there. But the poster that you're going to see here is the exact same one I've got on the roll there. And I double checked, and it was released in the same series. But this is what was in the roll. So it's a Mike Modano 99 Stanley Cup. So 99 Stanley Cup pose. You got that on there with the Upper Deck authenticated sticker and everything. And my autograph is very similar. It's in the same spot on the poster. Very nicely done. 16 by 20 poster.
Nice.
Very nice.
Pretty solid. Hard to beat that for the mystery roll.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
I think he may have known what was in that and handpicked that for you. Now, I can't say for sure.
Did it have the red X?
It may have been the influencer role.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yes,
I've seen this done in other places.
It could have been anything. Could have been even a boat. but it was a Mike Modano 16x20 poster.
The coincidence is uncanny.
It's
It's
incredible.
almost
It's
like
a good thing it wasn't Deal or No Deal, where you paid
Mhm.
$10 and he showed you that, because you might have, like, it was kind of obvious, like, the cylinder and all of that. You might have said, "Nah, I don't want that," and went for a different one. You would have passed up on a cool item for yourself. So good thing it
Yeah.
wasn't Deal or No Deal.
I did like though that he posed a valid question. He goes, "How much could I have asked you that you before you would have said no?" Because obviously, mystery item. Now, like I said, I'm gonna take Steve at his word. The thing is, they had a collection of stuff, and the person told them, because it is labeled. It does say Modano Auto poster on here, but I didn't see that. Obviously, I wasn't privy to that piece of information. But the thing is, according to Steve, he hadn't actually opened the roll to check. So it could have
Oh,
been. So it could have had a boat inside. Who knows?
you never
could have
know
been a
about these
Jordan.
boats. They're sneaky.
Yep.
They get into places.
Mm-hmm. So you never know. But it turned out there was in fact a poster in there. So it was a poster in there and the certificate of authenticity. So all's well that ends well. So it worked out. Now, so I did pick up that on the Sunday. So that was one of the last day pickups. I also picked up an autograph card, Michael Ribeiro and Modano dual patch auto. So a nice piece, number 25. So that was a good one for the collection. It was a good weekend for the collection, even though like not a ton of quantity, but some good quality, some definitely good quality. And there was one more little, so not a pickup, but a story related to it. So I was actually chatting with Comsey Berry. So I got a chance to be by the Comsey booth a couple of times. I dropped off the cards that I wanted to drop off, all good. And I wanted to chat with Barry, didn't get a chance, but I saw him later on towards the end of the show, because on Sunday I do get to walk around and at least chat with some folks a little bit more. I make a specific thing to go to visit. If I didn't get a chance to chat with you much, I go over and try to chat on Sunday because it's generally a little bit easier. So Barry and I were having a nice conversation, just chatting a little bit in front of the doors. And then all of a sudden, in a few moments into our conversation, all of a sudden we hear like a boom. And it turned out a gentleman, and I don't know what the situation was, and I'm not going to assume, but a gentleman basically walked directly into a window. So if you know anything about the expo, and Eric knows what I'm talking about here. So the entrance to the halls have two sets of glass doors. So you got the glass door on the left, the glass door on the right, enter and out, in and out. So to make it easy for everybody. So, but there is a large window in the middle of it. It's just a glass window. Walk right into it. Boom. And we just turn over like, are you okay? The door is that way. I would say he was he might have had a little bit of a headache, but he was quite embarrassed. And we just kind of looked at him as like, are you sure you're okay? Do you need any help? You're muted, Eric.
Yeah, I coughed. I'm sorry. Was this person possibly in the same condition of another friend of ours by any chance?
So the thing is, I truly don't know. And because this was Eric, no, seriously, this was 1 in the afternoon. This was a Sunday, 1 in the afternoon. Like we were just in the middle of the day. Like I hadn't seen anything. We were just in front of the doors. We were basically just in the like that middle space, because you've got the main doors and a little space there, and then you actually enter into the hall itself. So literally, Barry and I are just talking. We're just chatting, having a quick conversation, getting caught up and everything. And we're not even looking at the guy. We have no idea. The only reason we even know that something goes on is when we hear the boom. We're like, boom. And
it's like a bird hitting the window.
It was literally a bird hitting a window. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We all had a moment. We just doors there.
So, just out of curiosity about the show in general,
sure.
What was like pricing, like that sort of thing, and what was obviously we got the playoffs starting, and we went over that a little bit, but you have the hot ticket of the year, not in the playoffs. So what was the vibe like for the Bedard scenario? Like, was there a ton of them in cases? Did you see transactions of them? Do you know potential submissions of them, that sort of thing?
So the submissions I don't know yet. I will follow up with Brad to get a little more info because obviously they were receiving, submissions throughout the show, so I can actually get a little bit of a ballpark if they have an idea what they received. I can tell you. Here is my perception. So great question. Here's my perception. I think it was slower than people would think. Surprisingly, part of it was that the wax I don't think adjusted. I think people kept the prices high even though the raw Bedard price has now settled back down, which it was always
Right.
going to. The question was always going to be what happens when the Bedard raw price drops to a level where at the price point that the wax was, it no longer makes you money back. Or maybe
Yeah.
it's just break even. Like, let's say you get lucky, you pull up a dart. It's not guaranteed one per box, but let's say you pulled up a dart and you still haven't quite made your money back. That changes the dynamic completely. It's no longer, oh yeah, as soon as you pull the Bedard, you're in the black. In this case, if Bedard is break even or a little under break even, it's not like you're in a rush because I want to say that some dealers might have had it like $400 Canadian a box. Well, the problem is that the Bedard is not holding, like, as more Bedards went into the market, the price goes down. Supply has gone
Yeah.
up. Demand has kind of plateaued and supply has gone up, and that's not going to do great things for price. So I think it stalled a lot of the activity that you would otherwise have seen because the dealers didn't adjust the box prices accordingly. So
Yeah.
in other
And
words, so go ahead.
I was just gonna say that's the biggest issue, like with wax right now is, and it's been happening obviously since the pandemic and stuff. I don't remember it really happening much on release pricing pre-boom, pre-pandemic, whatever you want to call it. But where wax prices are being swayed by the player, the rookie, or whatever,
Mhm,
um, you're going to have these periods because it's not going to correct. Like, and before where it was priced on the product, you know, if the card came down, the initial hits were going to profit, but as time went on, it was going to level itself out. Now
mhm,
you're paying upfront on the wax, and the profit is less if you decide to sell, but the wax isn't, like you said, it's not correcting
mhm,
to mirror what the cards themselves are doing, and it becomes difficult to buy in open wax at that point because even before you were taking a high risk of not even hitting one and paying up for it, and now if you pay up and you do hit one, you're lucky to break even.
mhm.
So
Yep.
that's a big issue with the imbalance in wax right now.
But that puts a cold that throws a complete bucket of cold water on the buying. It slows it
Hmm.
right down because it's not that people are not interested. It's that they are very price conscious at certain levels. If you feel like, oh, maybe you could pull a big hit, and of course it's possible to pull a big hit, but the Bedard Young Gun is like your most common big hit. It's the closest, the
Hmm.
most available possibility of a big hit. But if you know that that's not even going to cover your box necessarily at the moment, given how prices have settled, then that box price becomes extremely important. You start looking at it, even with the upper deck giveaways and stuff. Now, I'm only speaking as one person observing. Somebody else may say, "Oh my God, I saw a million of them go." I didn't see that. Maybe they did, but I felt like the dealers that I did speak to, I think there was a surprise that there was less Bedard action than I think some of them anticipated. And maybe that's because the pricing hasn't quite caught up. In that room, it felt like the pricing. Now, people who did catch up in price, they moved product. They understood if
Right.
they understood the pricing, they were able to get their money out, boom, and then redeploy it and then take advantage of it. Because we do have a couple of repackers who buy stuff, and that allowed, again, I've used the example. Again, it's only a small sample size, but Eric knows this. My buddy Steve, who I usually will put my stuff down and hang out with, he's one of my longest hobby friends. We've been friends a long time. Back to the Beckett message boards for people who know how long ago that is. That's ye olden Beckett message board days. The point is that he is not a full-time dealer, but you would think he is with the level of inventory he has. He has
Yeah.
quality material.
Oh yeah.
And he is also a big-time collector who has been built a tremendous collection of quality material. But he's not there to run a museum. His goal is to move things in the showcase. He'll complain, and he'll still have a tremendously successful show because he understands how to price items and he understands how to purchase items at a price that makes sense, and then get it right back out the door. The goal is to move and churn and churn and churn, and then you go back to the next show, and there's some great stuff in the showcase again.
It sounds like, just without even knowing him, it sounds like he's more of the mind volume dealer, where the small margins he allows them to stack up rather than trying to penny pinch every dollar out of the margin. He knows that if you price it, you can move it, and as profits come in, they stack, and you can reinvest that and start creating the snowball.
Yeah. But he will also make there will be moments and there will be items where the margin is strong. It's a matter of it's a matter, two parts. It's a desire not to have stale inventory. But if you're going to sit on something, it better be quality. If you're sitting on something because you want your price you want, we make the joke. But Eric, like I said, Eric can attest. He's been to that booth. You want Boobiors? He's got Boobiors. You want Gretzky autos, Gretzky patches, Gretzky this, Ovechkin, Crosby. Pick the best of the best. And he's got patches, autographs, low numbered, one of ones. He's got some young guns, the odd. In one showcase, he's got a couple of young guns. But like 95% of it is like, no, this is collector shit. You want triple autographs of this person. You want Hall of Famers, left, right, and center. And a couple of the young guys who are hot. But patch autos out of 5, cup cards. It's quality. There's quality all over the showcases.
Yeah. And
it's not junk. His goal is not to, he doesn't have a dollar bin. Sorry.
And he's very fair with his prices, but it's all high-end stuff. It's like, I can't afford anything there. I mean, it is good stuff.
I'll give you a silly example, Brandon, and you'll get a kick out of this one. And I actually have to look it up because sometimes I lose track at this point because I've got the one player collection that I've been building for so long. Sometimes I used to be able to memorize every card that I had. I've long since passed the point where I can visually memorize every card with parallels and all that. It's become impossible. I always look in the showcase just for fun. Most of the time he'll let me know if there's something that he thinks I might be interested in. But generally speaking, we both try to remember, but sometimes I'll have to scan the showcase and maybe I'll see something. So I went and was looking, and I saw a Stature Medano autograph patch out of 9. Very nice card. But I was looking at it, and I like right there. And I think the price tag he had on it was $475. Super cheap. Basic and dirt cheap, like a pittance. But anyway, so I'm looking at this thing, and I'm sitting there like, this looks so familiar. Like, I swear. Like, so I have to scroll through. the Instagram. Again, I just said patch auto, on-card autograph out of 9. Okay, out of 9. Jersey numbered. So I'm skimming through the Instagram. It takes me a while, but I finally find the damn thing. I find it. It's like, yeah, okay, I've got one of those. Same year, same brand, patch auto out of 9. Different one, but same card. So I finally find the damn thing, and he goes, and I turned to him, I go, it's gotten bad, man. I can't even remember a fucking patch out of 9. And he was like, oh, that one? Yeah, you bought that one from me. He's had 2 of them. That was the second one.
Yeah, how does he do that, right?
But do you get my point, Brandon? It's like he's not dealing like, and it's nothing against lower price cards. It's just like he's coming all the way flying on a plane. He's not interested. He's not loading a truck full or a van full and carting it across the country. It's got to be enough. There's enough stuff to fill those showcases, but the goal is to have like good enough stuff to make the trip worthwhile, to hop on a plane and cart it over on a plane, because that's way more expensive to bring it over on a plane. So you're probably not bringing $5 cards. Just the nature of the beast.
I wasn't even talking like the value level. He's just moving volume more.
Yeah. But the margin, but even a low margin, margin on a $300-$400 card, if I say 10% margin, it's $30, $40 versus like $5 or $10. And you keep doing that and keep rolling it.
On those two, he probably has a little bit more room, because on a $5 card, if you say, okay, I can go down 20%, well, you're cutting basis of most of the price, versus on a $400 card, you have a lot, it's not as big, you got a more room to play with. So
yeah, and that's exactly it. And at the end of the day, there is room to deal in terms of that. But bringing it around to your main point, I found that a lot of dealers, I think, were stuck on old pricing. And let me use a different barometer. I'll use one of your favorites, Jason Robertson, good old J Rob. So let's bring in the pump. Let's bring in the pump for a second.
I'm
Hey,
ready.
Here we go. Here we go. We're bringing it.
Ready.
I am not guilty of that. I had my full day showcase where I was sharing cards, and I actually said people probably were expecting
You exercise
a full day
restraint.
of Robertson.
You exercise restraint.
Yep. I shared a few of my favorites and I let it be. I shared many other things in the collection, which was a lot and didn't even scratch the surface, but I did not pump. I did not flood the gates with him, and I let it be. So, and Carlos was a witness.
But I am going to use him as an example, though, because it fits into the point of your question.
Yep.
I wasn't specifically out there looking for Ottinger or Robertson or anything particular. Medana was going to be my main focus, or Jamie Benn, maybe if I saw some. And I grabbed a couple of Jamie Benns. I got a couple of cool ones. But the point is this. Would I have been morally opposed to grabbing an Ottinger or Robertson? No. But I'll tell you this. Considering the season they had this past season, which was good. Obviously, the team had success coming to the playoffs. We're not going to talk about the playoffs necessarily right now. But the point is, coming into the playoffs, a regular season-wise, the team was very successful. But Robertson was basically a point-a-game player. Ottinger had moments, but, some struggles as well. So both guys are not exactly on the top of the hot list. The old Beckett hot list, they're not right there in that top 5. You wouldn't know it from the prices. I was seeing, strong Jason Robertson prices, whereas I'm thinking like, okay, but I know there's a couple of guys that you should probably be looking at as the hot players right now. I feel like these guys have cooled off a little bit and the prices really aren't reflecting that. And that's basically, so that's an example that I'll use for you of what I was seeing. I was like, there were deals to be had. Ironically, my Medano stuff, I felt like I had an easier time dealing with Medano because it's kind of out of sight, out of mind. No one seemed to care. It's like, I felt like I had more room to maneuver and negotiate and work with some of these guys on getting prices that I was happy with on the Medanos. I was like, great. I have no objection to that. That sounds great to me. But yeah, on some of the other guys, it just felt like it was pulling teeth.
Going back to Robertson and using him as an example, because a lot of my PC guys aren't, they're not high value type guys. Robertson had his moment where he was, the 100-point, he had the back-to-back, hat tricks, that sort of thing. And his prices were pretty strong at that moment. But I noticed it with a lot of guys I collect that they had these periods, maybe like taking in another example of Flacco last year, when he had that run at the end and people were buying him up, going crazy, thought maybe he could take the Browns somewhere, yada, yada. Do you think some of these folks at the shows are similar to these eBay sellers? Because I had this thought the other day when I was browsing through some of my PC guys. Victor Robles is another one. You go on there and you see cards priced at $3,000 and you're like, that won't sell for 50. Where in the hell are you getting 3,000 from? And it's almost like they priced them 4 or 5 years ago and just maybe even forgot they had the damn cards. But it had this question the other day, like, how many cards? Just even with the players I look for, it was like, how many damn cards are sitting here that are never going to sell? Because the prices are so outlandish. Like, I can't even send an offer because it would be so embarrassing versus what the listed price is. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. And I'm wondering if sometimes dealers don't get stuck to the same thing. They like put the price on the sticker and they maybe forget that, hey, this guy isn't as hot anymore. And rather take the time to go price it, they just slap it out and hope somebody doesn't pay any attention, doesn't question it. But does it never dawn on them? It's never going to sell for that price. Do you think part of it is that same thing that we're seeing like on eBay and everything? It's just lack of give a shit, and they set the price. And
I think to a point. So I would say to a point, but I think it's a difficult argument to make for guys that put the stuff prominently in the showcase. If you go through the trouble of putting it in a premium visible spot, you're basically shining a light on it. You're making it you're putting it front and center. You're making it really clear. So clearly you've given enough thought to position the card in a visible spot to make it easy to see. I actually had a gentleman. So, like I said, in the course of great conversations, that I'm going to relay it to your question. In the course of great conversations, had a chance to sit down a couple different times and kind of hold court. Eric's seen that kind of game before. I've done it once in a while. But one of the fun things is when we're sitting down with a group and everybody's kind of chatting and talking, and one of the gentlemen had seen the channel before. So you know who you are. Pleasure chatting with you. But he asked a question, and I thought it was a good one. And it kind of plays into what you're talking about. What happens if you're dealing with someone where you're looking at it and you're interested? You know, it could be a tougher card. It could be whatever the case may be. I'm paraphrasing, but this is the gist of the question. But the price seems out of whack to you. It seems like I don't understand how to get to how we got to this price. This price doesn't make sense to me. And afterward, he explained to me who it was. Then I laughed and I go, oh, okay, now I know what you're talking about. I'll leave names out to protect the innocent or guilty. But the question is still valid. The question is still sound. So my response to him was, I go, this is my general advice. In your specific situation, you might be in trouble, but in general terms, this advice I think is sound. In that situation, I like to challenge the dealer. I like to basically flat out tell him, okay, you know what? I see this price. I'm not sure I can get there. Can you explain to me how you came up with this price? Can you just tell me how? Maybe I'm missing something. Explain it to me.
Yep.
And really simple. I said, could you just explain to me how we got here? Because I'm interested, but I can't figure out how we got to this price. And sometimes they might have an answer for you. And sometimes maybe it's old comps. Maybe it's just they weren't paying attention. Or maybe they are just full of crap and they make up a whole song and dance and a story that doesn't make any sense whatsoever. But either way, you'll learn something. You will learn. Or maybe in the course of trying to explain it to you, they realize they can't come up with an explanation. And then all of a sudden now you got room to have a discussion. Because it's like, actually, that price is out of whack. That price is out of date. And maybe you need to adjust it if you actually want to move the damn thing in your lifetime.
Yeah, and you're right about the putting it in, you know, visibility in the case,
Mhm.
because the Muhammad Ali auto I shared today on the Discord, that's a prime example of that whole scenario. That I bought from Chantilly, and I literally asked the dealer. It took me 6 shows, and they have that show 3 times a year. It took me 6 shows of asking the dealer every show, "Hey, you got any room on this? I'm looking to be at this price," because I had seen them and I didn't
Mhm.
want to buy one online because there's a lot of those faked or whatever. And I was confident in that copy. But anyway, it
Mhm.
took me 6 shows and I finally got him. So 2 years, but I did finally get him at the number I wanted to be at. So
Mhm.
sometimes maybe it's just they have hope that they're going to get the number they want, and
Mhm.
then you just have to like kind of wear them out, and it might take a little bit of time, a few shows, whatever, and they'll
Mhm.
kind of maybe wake up and say, I still have this, maybe I should sell it. But yeah, it's just an interesting take, how some dealers like get it, let me price this shit to move, and some are, let me go set up in Toronto and display my museum. So
Mhm.
it's just kind of an interesting variable amongst dealers.
Generally speaking, if you go to a certain show enough times, the fortunate part of being at the expo as many times as I've been is that usually you start to learn who the players are, who the ones that are like there are some folks who are there to set up a museum and you know who they are. And
Mhm.
once you learn who they are, then you just kind of maybe you'll look once in a while, but for the most part, you may as well just ignore them because you know that you're not going to be able to get a deal done. And it's, maybe one day they'll change their mind and they'll be a little bit reasonable, but hey, you're paying good money to set up at this table. These tables are getting more expensive all the time. They're not getting cheaper. And if you want to keep paying this much to not move inventory, then sir, there's nothing more I can tell you. My thought process is if you're going to set up at this show, my thought is I would want to try to actually move inventory. My goal is to sell and make your money back. That's why I thought the discussion with Yannick was so interesting. As someone who had never set up at a show before, but obviously the Burrell has set up tables in the past as a dealer for the app for different reasons. But he Bobby's been at the show a long time. I know, shocking, Eric. Like, allegedly, there's an app. I know. But and he's for the audio folks, Eric's miming because he's muted. But the point is that I know it's terrible. But the point is that it was interesting getting the contrast to somebody who had never set up as a table as a dealer before, because I was kind of curious how he would approach it, and that's why I asked him if he felt like it worked the way he wanted it to, and it seemed like he had some success with it. And I was happy to be a small part of contributing towards supporting the endeavor, and hopefully he had a good time with it, and it was successful enough for him. And it sounds like he may try it again in the future, and that's good. I'm glad to hear it. With some of these other guys, it wouldn't surprise me if they're one and done. I will share with you one other story about that. But before I do, any other thoughts or questions in that regard, though? I will say that I think for the most part, the dealers that run museums were still running museums. The dealers that wanted to make business understood the assignment. They did make their adjustments, and they were able to sell inventory.
Yeah. I mean, it's setting up at shows is fun. I've done it a few times. I haven't set up at Chantilly, but that's more, again, as you mentioned, table fees.
Mm-hmm.
But it's actually fun to set up as a dealer, and I'm sure Yannick took the same approach. You know what you got in the cards, you know what like the values and stuff are, and you know what your wiggle room kind of is. And the point is to sell shit. When you're set up as a dealer, your point is to deal. And sounds like he both sold and added.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another benefit is setting up is people are actually coming to you. Hey, you looking to buy? And so instead of walking around, you're getting people bringing you things. So that's another benefit to it. But I was just curious, and it sounds like the similar vibes of other shows is kind of slow period, even though it's mostly hockey up there. I think that's kind of been the vibe for a bit now at shows. So kind of interesting and good analysis, and sharing the information about the wax and that little adjustment there too with the Bedards. It'll be interesting to see how it moves forward with the newer products coming out and stuff, and what they come out at. And I like opening metal, and I was actually talking to my LCS the other day when I went down there, and I doubt I'm going to even touch it this year because I'm expecting with the whole Bedard thing, it's probably going to be pretty damn pricey. So, but
that's fair. I think what's funny though, kind of to your point, is that and I laugh because different dealers have different objectives. One of the things being that I obviously chat with the AMG folks as much as I do, and I think the AMG folks, and actually in the course of this conversation, since I'm bringing them up, now would be like a perfect time to bring up AMGcollectibles.ca and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. There will be additional words and utterances related to the expo experience of AMG on the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel. You can also check out their Instagram, where they had an Instagram live for the first time, and someone was involved. Someone on the screen. Maybe it was Eric. Maybe not. But I kind of doubt it. Maybe it was.
I watched it. Is what that I get confused sometimes of which side of the camera I'm on.
You did.
You were involved though. You participated.
You did engage for the engagement. There was engagement had.
Yeah, so I watched it.
Yeah. So anyway, we've got that going on, and that'll be coming up here. And obviously, this will drop on Tuesday, and then later on Tuesday there will be another. There will be an episode of that, and we'll get a chance to chat with some of their experiences. But I can tell you, and this isn't really a spoiler; it's just a statement. Their objective when they go down to the expo, generally speaking, now they will bring cards that are for the intention of selling, but that isn't really the main goal for them. The main goal for them is predominantly to be a buying situation. They're looking to get inventory for the store because obviously they got a store, and that's the purpose of it. And the other purpose of it, in which some people can take advantage of, and people did, they'll bring wax that with the intention of this is priced to go, kind of opposite to what we were talking about, Brandon. They've got that wax price like, oh man, but the dealer over there has it for like $75 more. True, but we want it gone. Like I'm paraphrasing. Their objective
clear
is like,
the shelves, yeah.
And in some cases, true story, Brandon, there were other dealers at the show who were literally had the same boxes that are like, can I buy those from you? Absolutely. Their goal was to sell the wax and get it out of there. They don't want it to cart it back. So they
Right.
were even priced at a point that some dealers were able to buy from them and probably mark the damn box right up. So in reality, like it was an opportunity for some, but the goal was to move it. So if that's what somebody's doing, well, then guess what? I have no doubt they're going to sell it. And they sold through a ton of that wax. I think one guy came by while I was there at the booth hanging out for a little bit. One guy came by and basically collected a whole case. He had bought the whole case, just straight up bought the case and dragged it away. And I was like, well, if your goal, that's how you do it. If your goal is to sell, if that's what you're trying to do and you've priced it as such that somebody will come and buy a whole case from you, then obviously mission accomplished. That's what you were trying to accomplish. That's what you got done. So the goal is
Right.
to buy and to sell that wax. So they had a success from that standpoint. I was chatting with one of the other friends who are in the Maritimes as well, and we're set up at a booth. He was super happy with the show. My buddy Steve was happy with the show. So it's like what's interesting is that people who understood how to adapt to the environment, they did not have any issue having success. It's weird how that works. And I chatted with one of the other guys who does a little more baseball and something that I follow a little bit on social media, and he was happy with the show. So I was getting a mixed message depending on who I was talking to, but a lot of the folks that understood how to adapt and adjust, funny enough, their tone was mostly positive. They were not having a tough time because they were figuring out how to make deals happen and they were having some success, which I think was really good. Now I'll contrast that. Here's a kind of funny thing. We have sometimes the corporate presence, of course. We had a golden booth. Now in the post purchase from eBay booth. A little birdie told me the Goldenites were not thrilled.
What were they not thrilled about?
Apparently they were not getting a lot of business, not having a lot of things going on over there. What's funny is PWCC's there, and they for the most part have not had too many issues. But I don't know if it was their approach. Like I was around and I was by the booth a fair bit. But yeah, but it was the reason I mentioned it is that the little birdie told me that because they were complaining within earshot of people that could hear them. So they were at the booth complaining about it. And I was like, wow, that will go over well.
I'll just say my experience with Golden and at shows, I would not deal with him if he paid me to give him his cards. By the way that his staff acted at the National, because when you have a display set up at a big ass show like that, and you have groupings of chairs all around where your display is, and yet are rude as hell and expect nobody to sit in these chairs that you have put out, and get nasty and tell elderly people that were taking a break and sitting in a empty chair that nobody was using, and have someone come over and tell them they must get up and leave when they were doing nothing wrong but sitting in a damn chair. I'm sorry, I understand you're running a business, but why in the hell did you have all of these chairs sitting around anyway? If you didn't want people sitting in them. I just thought the whole staff and the approach to it and everything was just rude. And it wasn't even towards us. It was like we were standing there and seeing it happen to this elderly couple that, the National's a huge ass show, and
that would upset me. That would upset
me. It was just rude.
16-year-old kids who may have been cussing a little bit or being loud and obnoxious. Guys, you got to move on. I mean, you got some older people that need to get off their feet. Let them sit down, for Christ's sakes.
Yeah, they were just sitting there, and they were rudely told they needed to get up and leave, that the chairs were for only Golden business.
I didn't see literally chairs. I didn't see that on the documentary.
Alas,
I think that was left on the cutting room. I think that was left on the cutting room floor.
For shame. But I want to make sure that I clarify, so just so we're on the same page. I didn't personally witness or hear it, but the individuals that were telling me about it are very credible with me. They have a lot of credibility with me. And if it was complaining within earshot of other people that are not necessarily standing right there listening, and they can hear that. I've seen that kind of behavior before, and that's a company that isn't going to necessarily come back or be around, and you won't be missed. Like, PWCC and eBay don't seem to have that problem. And they've been setting up for a while. So they clearly have other companies in the space man, that, by the way, take intakes, even Slab Sharks. Slab Sharks has only expanded its thing. Whether I like them or not, they're succeeding. They've done very well, and they've been able to build themselves quite a brand locally. They set up at a lot of shows, but at this show is obviously their big show where they show out. ComC has its presence, and they've been doing business for a long time. eBay has its set up, and they're doing business. So companies and PSA we've talked about before, and a lot of the graders have been able to have some stuff going on in the space. So clearly it is possible for these businesses to have success, but how you approach it is very important. You do have to understand that every market's its own beast. How you're going to approach it is its own beast. And if you want to try to draw a certain type of clientele, or you're trying to draw a certain type of item, you got to make sure your approach matches up with what's going on, because otherwise, we joked about it in the past with the Great Curator, when the Great Curator came down the one time and they were set over at the kiddie table. And it was like, here's the thing. And what happened? Dude just spent his whole time complaining. But the reality was, it's like, well, your stuff is not priced. I don't care if you think you can con somebody else into paying this price. It doesn't make sense to anybody here.
Right. And
then you take in the exchange rate of the dollar. Look, there are people spending real money at other tables. It's not that your stuff is so high end. There's high end stuff all over the show. So if your stuff isn't moving, maybe your stuff isn't that desirable in this marketplace, and maybe you needed to adapt a little bit more. You clearly didn't read your marketplace very well, because that's the answer. Your price was wrong for the locale that you went, because I guarantee you, if the people want to spend money, I watch people drop real coin when they wanted the item. Cash on the table, no problem. And these are with American dealers. Oh, you converted into Canadian, but guess what? They paid it. If they want the item, they paid it. No problem. It's funny how that works. If you got the item that people want, they'll pay up. They'll make it happen for you. Very interesting. So a little bit that was a fair bit of a lot of the stuff that I found was very interesting. Very interesting the way that one worked out. I did notice one other thing that I definitely picked up on. Another elevation in the amount of interactive elements to it. I saw that the CSC guys were trying to do live streams throughout the show. That was going on. eBay had like a, I want to say they had like a little stage area in kind of in the middle of the main floor kind of thing, where they were doing these little panels. You've elevated the number of panels too. Now that, dude, we got all the influencers this time. Eric, I'm glad you're sitting down. Not only did we get Mojo Sports, and I know that's exciting enough. That's pretty exciting.
True. It's true.
We got Roth cards. We got Card Collector 2. It's like all the people come into the Canadians, Bob Brandon. All the people. All the influencers come into the Canadians.
Did you get it? Now, with respect, not joking around, 5% more mature. We got word that there was going to be new influencer cards this year. You were not familiar with this gentleman by the name of
Dr. Collectible. Yes. I saw him like 12 times. Eric, no joke. I saw him like 12 times.
Everywhere. He was everywhere.
He was literally everywhere.
So I was wondering if you got a chance to meet him, because well, hold on, slow your roll, because
slow my roll. Whoa. Go on.
Okay. You have mutual acquaintances.
I do.
So sure. I didn't know that with mutual acquaintances, possibly you ended up meeting him. So that was going to be my question. Did you get an opportunity to see him running around doing his thing, or two, did you, because of mutual acquaintances, did you get a chance to meet him?
Right. So yes, I did see him a number of times throughout.
Yeah.
Actually, you know what's funny? At one point, I think it might have even been when I was chatting with Barry. Well, actually, maybe not. I think it might have been when I was hanging out with some of your clubhouse folks, maybe. So, because again, the infamous area with the window, very dangerous window. You got to be careful of that window in the front. Very dangerous. I've seen people walk into it. But the point is, you got to be careful of that dangerous window. It's very dangerous.
True.
But so I saw him a number of times. There was one time specifically that I remember, and I don't remember who I was with. I think it might have been Billy and Amanda, or maybe just Amanda, or because I know I was in that area there, and I saw that it was Dr. Collectible, and I saw it was I want to say something Schultz, the guy who runs the National. I want to say it's that guy.
Yes. Yep.
And there was I don't know if it was Coach Co or one of the other ones, but there was a third person with them. So there was three of them. So one was the National guy, one was Dr. Collectible, and there was one more person who at least facially I recognized. And it escapes me who it was. But yeah, they were literally like 5 feet from me. But I was having a conversation here. So
Yeah.
no, now I didn't go out of my way to avoid the guy, but at the same time, like I had no cause to go and like say hello. Yeah.
And I don't think you did. I was, again,
Yeah.
because I know you and I have mutual acquaintances with him.
Mhm.
I didn't know if you had an opportunity to meet somebody that, a month ago, you very respectfully said, I don't know who that gentleman is.
Mhm.
So I didn't know if you get a chance to meet him. That's all.
No, never got a chance. Never got a chance. Alas, the networking event where no doubt I could have met him at the networking event. Alas, I had an appointment to watch grass grow.
Yes.
So I missed out on the networking event. It was very sad.
There was the paint drying.
Yeah, the paint drying. It was a double header. It was the grass growing and the paint drying.
And then there was some water evaporating and ice melting. Yeah, it was crazy.
So I couldn't make it out to that networking event. Yeah. Damn. So sad. But I made it to Jack Astor's the next day.
Yeah,
the next day I got there.
And I enjoy it. I have a good time, but that's okay.
I had a good time the next night.
Good. It's a nice little restaurant.
It is. It's where you've got some intriguing table company.
Especially. And I've definitely had some intriguing table company at that restaurant. Yes.
Yeah. And in fairness, we were also able to check, and we did get a chance to watch the game. So it's good. We got a chance to watch the games, had some intriguing company, interesting conversations were had. So while it was not the networking event, Eric, it did not quite reach the lofty heights of the networking event. There was some networking happening. Some conversations were occurring.
You mentioned this, and again, I'm being serious to some extent. You mentioned this maybe last Monday or Friday. I don't remember when, but there is a difference between being there in the spring and the fall if you're a hockey fan. Sure. In the fall, which I go, there's hockey on everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still very early on in the season, so you just have a good time. I would really enjoy being in Canada, in Toronto, while the Leafs are in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
So you only have a very small window of that.
Mm-hmm. Generally about a week.
Yeah. You have a
week, give or take. About a week, give or take.
As a Bruins fan, that'd be fun too.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a difference, and I would love to be sitting at a restaurant such as Jack Astor's or any place really, and having just big giant television screens, because that television in the main restaurant's pretty big, right? The one over the bar.
It is. Well, Eric, for this particular expo, it would have been even better for you because a couple of your clubhouse homies allegedly may have gone to the Toronto-Boston game on Saturday.
I'm aware of that, yes.
So not only is it the Boston Bruins, it is the Boston Bruins in Toronto playing in the playoff series.
Pictures and video were sent, and but it's okay,
Just think of it like this, Eric. You had said something about you didn't have the money, and then you posted the thing where somebody was selling.
And now bubonic plague. He did have bubonic plague this weekend.
I did.
But you have to think of it this way: if you ever get the opportunity, the tickets are really like half price at that point, because you have self-stated you're a fan of both teams, so you're getting a ticket for half the cost because you're getting to go watch both of your favorite teams playoff games.
Okay.
So,
see, a little bit of reason there.
I think you need to go back and see that there was an apology video made. I had I was in mental crisis when I was a Leafs fan.
I was about to say for your entire life. Go on.
It was explained thoroughly in a 2-page letter to the public, and I put that event in my past, and I'm
the dark episode behind you.
I am Mark McGuire. I'm not here to talk about the past. I'm just looking forward to the future.
Can I ask one question?
Okay, but you're going to get the same Mark McGuire response just like he did.
No, I'm going to ask one question here.
Okay.
And it's either true or false.
Okay.
Did you or did you not attend a Toronto Maple Leafs game
He did.
in Toronto wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs hat
Yes.
prior to the whole playoff meltdown?
We for the French.
Yes.
That's all. That's the only
But
answer I needed. There you go.
Oh, alas, we're out of
Well-
time on the follow-up response. Oh, on the explanations and qualifiers, we're out of time. Sorry, so sad to hear. Moving
It
on.
was Boris Salming night. He made his last public appearance. He died a week
did?
later.
That is true. That is facts.
And I was there as a Boris Salming fan.
Mm.
And I was moved to the point,
To tears.
almost. There were a lot of people crying that night.
They were.
Moved to the point of buying the Maple Leaf hat and wearing it as a Boris Salming fan on Boris Salming night. So there is an asterisk to this story.
Okay, and see, you were taking my whole statement of trying to make the tickets more appealing by saying that they were kind of half price because you split it between the two teams, and you literally just said that you attended the Maple Leafs game, you enjoyed it, you were there as a fan of Boris or Leafs or whichever.
Boris? You say
Just
Boris?
if you had the opportunity, Eric, just do it.
Listen, he and
You just
Natasha
said it
were
would be
chasing after Moose and
awesome.
Squirrel. There was a lot going on.
You just said it would be awesome to be in Toronto when they're in the playoffs and everything. And it would just be even more awesome if they were playing Boston and you were at the damn game witnessing it in a seat instead of at a bar, looking at it on a damn big screen where you're still going to pay for overpriced food and drinks and everything else. And you could just get your ass in the seat at the stadium and just do it.
It would be.
That's all I'm trying to say.
And the ticket prices to get into Toronto Maple Leafs playoff game must be astronomical.
I don't know. You'd have to ask. You'll have to ask your clubhouse associates. Obviously, they were able to buy tickets, so I guess they came to a price they were happy with.
Yeah,
I don't know what to tell you.
I don't usually ask people about finances, but I may have to ask that question.
Yeah, you could just ask how much the tickets were, just as a curiosity thing. Like, hey, you guys went to the game. How was it? You know,
for future reference, how much were playoff tickets?
Yeah,
simple question.
Yeah. Now I will touch on.
By the way, how in the hell does a team not like? Was it people reselling the tickets, or did they literally?
I would
not
guess
sell
no.
the
If
game out?
no, they 100% sold the game out. But I would guess that the resale. I would guess that when they were purchasing it, they were probably able to buy some from some resellers. I can almost guarantee that. But
I was
what I was going to
say, shit.
Yeah,
that's
tough. The tickets are pre-sold from corporate, man. Like those tickets were gone before they even hit the ground. They were gone.
The real fans are outside in the cold.
Yeah, butts in the seats is whoever's willing to pony up. That's a different conversation. But the ticket is sold. It's just a matter of who gets it after that.
I figured as much, but it seemed like an awful lot that were floating around there at the.
No, they make the team makes money hand over fist. Those tickets are long sold, long spoken for. What I was going to say was, no, I agreed kind of with Eric's general premise is that the Spring Expo is the quieter of the two expos. However, if you are interested in the hockeys, fortunes can be made or sold. And I think in some ways, one thing that I think was a factor, thumbs up. I think one thing was a factor that kind of played into it is obviously the Leafs losing on the Saturday. I think was a bit of a hindrance on Sunday, unfortunately. I guarantee you, if the Leafs had won on Saturday and like Austin Matthews has scored a couple of goals, there's a couple of more Austin Matthews cards that would have sold on Sunday. Like such is the fortunes of the fates of the team, because as stupid as it sounds, people ride the wave of emotion, man. Like, trust me, I've seen it. They ride the wave of emotion. When the team looks like they're down, it hurts. It suppresses the price of some of these items. Now, for obviously retired players and whatever, none of that matters. You know, that's not going to be an issue. But for the people who are like riding and dying with these teams and they walk in, because like I said, true story, people were dropping coin, man. I was there. I was watching it. I brought in a decent amount of money and I was pretty happy with it. I walked away with some money because I was being super picky. And if I wasn't as picky, I definitely could have spent every dime if I really wanted to. That wouldn't have been an issue. but I think it was fun to be a little bit pickier, to pick and carefully choose my spots. I felt like I got some good pieces for the money that I actually paid, so I was happy with that, obviously. But the fact was that when people were seeing high end or quality pieces, I don't think they hesitated. So what's funny is, as cool as maybe the hobby was, the quality items that were priced appropriately were moving. That is what I observed. I
I,
was seeing it happening all over the show.
I spent hundreds of dollars at the expo this year, and I was in my bed
Mm-hmm.
because I had people up there spending.
You had people. You had people.
I had got to get people, and
Mm-hmm.
I had people up there spending my money like they just did, like it was just they did not care.
I bet you even had sleeveless French guys on your payroll.
There could have been some Quebecers up there just throwing my money away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I may have allegedly seen some of that. That's all I'm saying. Oh, by the way, in the spirit of someone who's commented in the past, Martin Sports Cards had 2 complete showcases of Gretzky rookies. I should have taken a picture. I sent
you that picture.
Oh, of the 2 showcases? Yeah, so that was Martin Sports Card. That was Martin Sports Card specifically.
Instagram. I sent it to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll double check. But anyway, well, actually, maybe if I can pull it up here. Let me see if I can pull it up.
Utterly,
by the way, that was Martin Sports Card. That was Martin Sports Card specifically. I know exactly who that was. So it just made me laugh. I was sitting there like, yep, that's exactly it. So I'll see if I can find it. Yeah. So anyway, the point was that it was 2 entire showcases of just Gretzky rookies, nothing but Gretzky rookies. And there was another dealer who probably had like half a table, 3/4 of a showcase full of nothing but
Brandon,
nothing else.
To you too. You get that picture I sent on Saturday?
Yeah, I seen it. You said something about Canadian door stops for days or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, this was a text. I'm just taking a look. Maybe it was in the bigger group. Hold on.
Yeah, it was the big group.
Okay, yeah. There's too many text groups, man. It makes life complicated.
I only have 2.
Okay,
guys.
Here we go. I got it. Hold on. I think I see where the Instagram page is, so I'll actually pull it from the Instagram page as well. All right.
I was trying to figure out, are they all KSA?
No. So there are some. I want to get the bigger picture here so I can show it to you. So I will pull that up. So bear with me a minute. I will see if I can locate it here.
I couldn't recognize what that like reddish black labels was on the
so
side.
So KSA has changed their label to have red. So, but the way you can tell is it's also got a black insert. That's what makes it a little bit screwy.
Yeah, so all of those are KSA in this picture Eric sent.
It could
be.
But
there's 2 showcases full, so they do have some PSA ones as well.
Yeah, this was just the KSA showcase. You can't see the other one very well.
Yeah. No, you can't.
It looks like, I can see a corner. There's BBG and PSA.
Yeah, they had different. There's a
full showcase of KSA. Holy shit!
Totally, yeah. Well, they stack up on those. Like that is no doubt. Seriously, it was very interesting how they managed to fill up the showcase full of it. Again, I think the fact that KSA changed their labels and their holder and everything, I wasn't a big fan of that. I'll be honest. I understood what they were doing, but it was like, come on, guys, you don't really have to do that. But nonetheless, I wanted to see if I could actually grab this separately from everything else. But all right, I'll just use the one that Eric had originally, so that way we can at least show that one. And it is 86 collectibles _ hockey. And if you guys can find the better picture, you're more than welcome to it, but I will show you one. But anyway, so stacks of those, stacks of different of all standard rookie cards that you would expect. One that I was actually looking, Wes had actually asked me about a Waugh. He was looking for maybe a Patrick Waugh rookie under the right circumstances, right pricing and everything. I saw a bunch. The problem was the pricing was a little out of whack. Kind of going back to your original question from earlier, I felt like the prices were wrong for basically what they were in terms of grade and condition and everything and eye appeal. They were asking for a little bit too much for the nicer ones, and I wasn't a fan of that. So I obviously wasn't going to necessarily go for that. So here it is, just a quick screenshot of one of the ones. So that's one showcase full of just Gretzky rookies, predominantly in KSA holders here. But there is some stuff you can kind of see off to the side a little bit. You can see some Beckett, and you can see there's a couple PSA right here. So if you can see that right there, these are PSAs. So they did have a row of PSA ones, or maybe 2 rows of PSA ones, Beckett BVG ones, but a ton, like literally a whole showcase full of nothing but KSA. Aggressive and strong price points, I assure you. but different levels depending on what condition you wanted. It became a bit of a running joke, though. I was there at one point where somebody was asking about a Gretzky rookie. And basically the guy's question is, all right, so what grade range are you looking for? Because that's really the only question. They basically had it pretty much. They pretty much had it from authentic to like 8 or 9. So they pretty much had everything you wanted covered, like the whole gamut, including half grades and all kinds of stuff in between. So it's like, what kind of grade you looking for? What do you want? But that's Martin Sports Cards. They have a ton of that kind of stuff. They got Lemieux rookies. They got the Ken Dryden rookies. Pick your 70s and 80 rookie of choice. They probably have at least a small stack of them, generally speaking, a lot. And Bobby Orr, they got it. They got a small stack of those too, without even a problem.
Yeah,
all the way back to Parkhurst.
They aren't hard cards to find. All these legends, they're well produced. They're gonna cost you, for the better the condition, the higher the cost, and it is gonna cost. And it just depends on how bad you want it and how much money you have. But it's not basically. I mean, I could go. I literally in 5 minutes I could own a Orr rookie. You just go on eBay, find one, hit buy it now, and now it's yours.
Yeah,
I don't know where I'm getting the $10,000 from.
Yeah,
but I could do it.
And you want to know, speaking of that right there, so I kind of like touched on it, and I've talked about it in videos, and I'm actually going to, yes, shocking. I have planned. I don't know exactly when I'm going to get it done. No promises, but I've got a couple of video topics that I want to discuss and actually record about. But
gasp.
Your point right there. No, it's not going to be like the last video I did. We're past that. No ranting,
Man of peace.
No nothing.
Man of peace, Brandon.
Serious topics and hobby, like collector type thoughts on the topics. But
all right. Fair enough.
With your statement right there, Eric, is a big reason that I moved off of some of the cards that I had that were really awesome cards. They were really awesome to obtain and to reach that accomplishment of getting them. But when you really look at it, that's all it is. It's like an achievement, and you're not getting, an award for it or anything. You're obtaining an item that literally is only prohibited by the dollar amount, because even the Gaudy Ruths and all that other stuff, they're out there. They're available.
Can I phrase it a little differently? I want you to finish your point, but can I phrase it a little differently? One of my favorite ways of phrasing this: all you did was prove to me you had enough money to pay for it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, really, that when I would sit here and I would say I didn't know if I would ever own this, it wasn't because I didn't think I couldn't find it. This was way more of a challenge to find than a Babe Ruth. It was, I didn't know if I would ever own it because I didn't know, either if I would save towards buying it or if I would consciously talk myself into spending that much money on a piece of cardboard, know, and that's the challenges of it all. And that's why I've also rethinking back on it all. Yes, they're awesome pieces. Yes, it's cool to own them. It's exciting when you close the deal on one. But at the end of the day, the only accomplishment or achievement from it was spending the money on it. Like, they're out there, just as you said. So that's a perfect way to put it. They're not rare cards. There are some things that are rare out there, but for the most part, the cards deemed or termed as the iconic cards or whatever, they're not rare. It's the people willing to spend the money on it is more rare than the cards themselves.
And I'd agree with that. And I think that could honestly be its own topic itself as well. I think one important thing, and this is just my opinion, I think what it comes down to, and I think this is critical, I think the key to all of this is I want to make sure we're clear on this. I'm never going to knock anybody having one of these cards as their grail.
Oh yeah.
If that's your grail, if
I'm
that's your challenge, I'm just making sure we're all on the same page here, but I'm just making sure. I will never knock anybody because I've had this conversation this weekend. So I actually want to, I'll shift. This will be kind of the last topic I'll touch on because it does pertain to the expo, because I specifically had this conversation, but I'll quickly bridge to it from here. And it was, I will never discount anybody's journey because everybody's on their own. Everybody's got to find the items that give them enjoyment or happiness or whatever the case may be. We don't have to be overly elaborate, but just enjoyment. If it's just enjoyment or challenge or whatever it may be. And it may be a situation that just finding the item itself, maybe getting the money together is the challenge. It's not that it's impossible to find. It's that on my budget to be able to achieve that, I got to do X, Y, and Z and, trade up and buy and sell and do all these things. And then one day I cobble together the funds and I get this card. And it might be a card that I could go on eBay and buy it now anytime. But at the same time, for the person who had to scrape and claw and get it together, that is their grail. That is their mountain they had to climb. And I never want to discount that. Never want to discount it at all, because that's their journey that was. So in that situation, no, you applaud them. You give them credit. Hey, you did what you wanted to do and you got the piece that you wanted. Hey, congratulations. Good job. Because everybody's on their own journey. Everybody's got to figure out their own path. The irony of what you were doing was that you took some cards that for a lot of people would be grails, but they were cool to have, but not necessarily what you wanted. And go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was reflecting back on what I guess I really wanted out of the hobby, and looking back on where I had the most fun. Like, I had to understand that without the pandemic, and as crazy as things got, as crazy as prices got, it afforded the opportunity to make some moves and create funds to be able to purchase things I didn't think that I would ever own. And that is a blessing, of course, because I did accomplish those things. But at the same time, I had to rewind back to who I actually was as a collector. And I would much rather be back to the spot where I was having fun. And because what you find out is you start picking these cards, and this is kind of a position I was in. You start buying these cards and it becomes more and more and more and more difficult, and there's so many of them out there that are thousands of dollars that you would love to own, and you have to start picking and choosing them, but then you keep wanting more and more, and you're like, I can't keep spending two, three, four, $5,000 per card, because it just keeps adding up. And so I had to reflect back on myself and say, where was I having fun? Like, where was I having the excitement and hunting for particular things? And it was all right in front of my face, or behind me, technically, the whole time. It was building my national stuff and the Robertson and, my Ravens or Shaq or whatever. And again, it was awesome to own those cards, but it wasn't who I was as a collector. And that's what I needed to rope back in and get back to having fun. And it's honestly, it's worked. I have bought more cards this year already in April than I did all of 2023, because I'm back to the things that have some sort of a significance to me, not to the iconic nature of Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig or whoever. It's pieces that are important to me. And I think that's where a lot of this goes. I mean, look at what you buy, your Medanos and stuff, and your 90s stuff. That's
And of course, the
period you
Chosen
love.
Rose and the Grail of Grails.
Well, that's your fun bit, Eric has
It's,
his thing.
Brandon,
with
it's
his
Brandon. It's all a
69.
fun bit. It's all a fun bit, but for different reasons.
Right, but you know what
For
I mean.
different
That's
reasons.
that's your trolling bit.
Maybe a little, maybe a
Yeah.
little bit.
And it's okay to have that too. But I think y'all understand what I'm talking about here. I am not here to wallet watch anybody and say, hey, you're silly if you're spending that kind of money. That's not what this is about. I was reflecting on it on my own behalf, and I still have some cards that I won't be letting go of, that I spent a good bit of money on. I've shared some of those today. but I had to look at in order to have longevity, you have to figure out what you can keep pace with. You can't, try to run up the mountain and then run up another one right after. And that's kind of what it's like when you're spending these big dollars on cards and you go in immediately after the next one. And I don't know. I just wanted to get back to what actually was fun for me. So
There you go. Makes sense. Now, kind of what I wanted to kind of lead into off of that, and I think this will be like the last topic here that we'll wind down on, and we'll finish off on this thought. Now, before I do that, I want to take a quick diversion because I did see this card. I didn't get a chance to share it in the other video, but I'll share it now because I think it's extremely pertinent to the understanding to enjoy elements of the hobby. I saw a lot of cards in a lot of showcases during the expo, but I took a moment to take a picture of one item, one specific item. Eric, you ready for it?
No.
Please be the leprechaun.
The fucking Dutch. Goddamn Bert Blyleven, the fucking Dutch. Right in the middle of the table, mocking me. This bastard with
In
his
a
yellow hat.
pirate's uniform at that.
With his yellow hat.
Those hats were so
Like,
cool.
I never
My war with
think
the
of
Dutch
Burt
will
Blyleven
Eric,
as a
my war with the
pirate.
Dutch will never die, and that wasn't what you were expecting, was it?
No.
I never
That's why I did
associated
it,
him
Eric.
as a pirate.
My war with the Dutch will never die.
Yeah, I'm a fan of a lot of Dutch cyclists, so you won't like the fact that I can name off several Dutch cyclists.
They're all evil. Every last one. All evil.
You would be maybe surprised, but maybe proud to know that I can't name any Dutch. I don't really pay that close of attention.
Brandon, what
where
about Bert Blyleven?
the athletes are actually from?
What about Bert Blyleven? How about Bert Blyleven?
I only knew that because you posted the picture and said it. Just being honest. I also didn't ever associate him as a pirate. So
yeah. And I think Xander Bogaerts. I think Xander Bogaerts is another one who qualified for the Netherlands team.
Wouldn't have had that on my bingo card.
Now you know. But now you know, and now you can't unsee it. It's all those clog-wearing Dutchmen. Every last one of them. But yes, so I needed a moment. I needed a moment to do that. Okay, now the actual little last topic. What I was going to say was, though, and this is a conversation I was having during the show. We were chatting about a bunch of different stuff, and it actually plays into what we were just talking about a moment ago. Not the Dutch, the other part, but the part that is that there's the grails, there's people on their own journeys and everything. And it was a conversation I was having with Mike, Canadian Cards. And one of the things we were chatting about, a lot of different things, but I was saying that one of my things that has always been interesting to me, and it's unfortunate to me, that I think hurts kind of the hobby side of things a little bit, is that I do think that from time to time, people do lose sight of the fact that, and we talk about it in the live stream quite a bit, people do lose sight of the fact that obviously as the prices escalate and everything, for a lot of people, and I'll repeat it a million times apparently if I need to, for a lot of people, a $50 purchase, $100 purchase or whatever, that's a decision. That's something that people need to think about. It's real money to a lot of people. Now, some people are very fortunate, very blessed to be able to, spend a lot of disposable income on hobby stuff, and that's great. And I have, over the course of time, I've spent quite a bit on my main collection. The Medano PC, I joked about it, and like I would be shocked if it's not six figures over the course of time because I did the rough maths. Eric appreciated the maths.
Hey,
I did the rough maths.
Hey,
it's all about the rough maths.
Rough or smooth? We don't do that here.
But over the course of 30 odd years, that's kind of what it worked out to, because all you got to do is you spend $400 for this card, $500 for this card, $600 for this card, $300 for this card. And you just keep adding up these $200, $300 purchases, $400 purchases, $500 purchases, and do that over 30 years. It's not hard to wake up one day and suddenly you see this crazy number. And if you had said at the beginning that's what you were going to be, it doesn't make any sense. But over the course of time, it does. So like after a while, it kind of adds up. But the point is, that's not the norm. Go ahead.
A figure that was kind of eye-opening to me is I had stated that I went through and counted, and this is pretty close to accurate. I may have missed a few things, but
your number of slabs?
Yeah, and I did that by just an average number of $15 because at one point grading was higher, but probably about a $15 average. And that's just what's in the PC. That's not what I've sold.
Mm-hmm.
Almost $10,000
Yeah.
and just grading fees.
Yeah.
That's not
Well,
even the
Brandon,
damn cards inside of the slabs. That's just the cost to get the slabs.
Brandon. One of my favorite kind of side. Like I said, the point here is just to give everybody context for there are different levels to this at different hobby levels. That's why I say there's nothing wrong with whatever hobby level makes the most sense to you. You got kids, you got family, you got obligations. You should be worried about that. Don't worry about the cardboard. The cardboard is not a big deal. If you have the disposable income and can afford to do so, well, then that's great. That's fantastic. But I'm never going to knock anybody for collecting whatever it is that makes them happy or that they collect, because
You mark
we're
me
all
all the
working.
time.
Well, because you suck. But the point is that forget about that, though, Brandon. Just think in context, though. Being in Canada, how about how much money over the course of since 1998 I spent on shipping?
Yeah.
Just
I knew where you were
shipping.
going as soon as you said being in
Just
Canada.
shipping. Just shipping, Brandon. Just
And
add it up.
I want to reiterate something too about what I was saying earlier, just real quick.
Is it that we're poor?
Wasn't. No, it wasn't anything to do with like a lack of finances or anything. It was, if it wasn't for the pandemic and going down that path of like the vintage. I even stated it on the channel. I was buying those cards to enjoy today, to pass along to my kids and yada yada. And when I really got down to it, and even talking with them, I was going to be passing down a headache because they were just going to sell them. And so why sit here and give them a task of trying to sell my shit that I was having to enjoy, and instead just, y'all see I have a lot. I just said I got over 600 slabs already. So they're going to have a headache to begin with. But but the point is really, I had no connection with Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig or Roberto Clemente or any of that shit. You know, great players, great cards, nothing against anybody that's their thing, what they want to do. I just really wanted to just get back to what I was having fun with. And that's all it boiled down to.
No, that's fine. That wasn't the direction I was going. The reason why I was having that conversation is that we were chatting about, and again, no names to protect the innocent or guilty. The point was, sometimes we'll watch videos and we'll see people that have lost sight of the value of a dollar, so to speak.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that's my point here. That's what I'm trying to get at here.
Yep.
We in this screen has spent good money in our collections over the course of time. The point of that number that I gave was not to brag, because frankly, I think I'm an idiot. but like, I'm happy to own the collection I own. But if you add it up, could I have spent the money on something else? Yes, of course. I could have invested that money, and frankly, I'd be rich.
But you probably would have spent that money. I mean, well, you could say that, but you probably would have spent it on something else that you would have said was stupid to have fun with. Because we all have to spend money to enjoy life. Like, you can't just hoard money or.
Oh no, I agree with that.
But you shouldn't just always be wise. You gotta have a little bit of fun.
My other hobbies, honestly, are less expensive in volume. If we add up the dollars, the allocations are out of whack here, man. That's what I'm trying to get at here. The allocations have been out of whack for a long time. But the point is that over the course of a 30-year collecting lifespan, it makes sense. You get there bits and pieces. You didn't get there in a day. You didn't drop 100K in a weekend. You add up all the components, and it doesn't count shipping. It doesn't count the cost of this, the cost of that, the cost of one touches, the cost of the stupid things that you don't even think about on a day-to-day basis, but they all add up to the hobby side of the equation when you're adding it all up. But the point is that I've tried actively to never lose sight of the relative cost of the hobby, because I'll sit there and go like, that's why sometimes it's fun to talk about. I've done the news stories and things, especially during the pandemic, record prices for this, record prices for that. But it never affects me, because I'm like, well, the average person isn't buying this shit anyway. The average person is just chugging along, doing their thing, and they're collecting thing. And $1 million cards have nothing to do with them.
I think the other part that I realized with it, and you've probably could relate to this being, so you're not niched into just Medano, but he's your main meat and potatoes of your collection.
It's been a big chunk of the collecting over the years. Yes.
And if you veer off in too many different directions, what you're going to find is you're going to wind up missing out on things that you would have loved to have had in that collection that had importance to you. And that's something I have found along my way is I've missed pieces that I would have loved to have added to my collection of particular players or teams that I collect because I was looking for other things and I wasn't honing in on what I actually enjoyed the most. And so that's another part of reeling it in. I'm not saying you got to be niched into one specific thing, but it's easier when you have less options that you're hunting for.
I agree. And I think that's what I did. That's what I did when I scaled back the amount of vintage projects I was working on. Because there was a time where I had grander ambitions to try to do entire runs and stuff like that. And I was buying these cards for these different sets, kind of like trying to chip away at multiple things at the same time. But there was no focus. It was all over
Yeah.
the place. It was kind of like try to get things as they come. The problem is that most of the sets, honestly, when I evaluated it later, it's like, yeah, a lot of these sets I don't like. I don't even like them. Forget about not loving them. I don't even like them. So then, frankly, it's a waste of money. It's a waste of time.
Yep.
It's a waste of energy.
It's just a tick on the checklist.
Yeah. So when you kind of realign and go, okay, 53 Bowman Color, I love that set. I think it's an iconic set. I think the imagery on it is beautiful. 53 Tops is a set that I enjoy. The 63 Fleer I just like because it's quaint, but the checklist is also manageable. This is important. The checklist is also manageable. So I look at the combination of things. There's some great players in it, but the checklist is reasonable. It's a fun project. I'm doing it as a set registry, not because I have to. I could 100% just put one in a binder and it'd be cheaper, but I felt like it was more of a challenge and I felt like doing the challenge. That's the only reason I did it. Otherwise, no, just put the damn thing in a binder and be done with it. I chose to pick the harder difficulty on that one because the checklist was manageable. And I thought, let me give this a shot and have a little fun with it. You don't have to do that. Nobody has to do that. But I chose to do that. But for the other one, I don't care as much. I've got cards in the binder and I've got graded cards and I got a combination of both. And that's perfectly fine. And I've even got graded cards from all the companies. So I don't care. Like, it doesn't make any difference. If the card is quality, the card is quality. It's perfectly fine. That's how I chose to collect. But when I narrowed it down that way, it meant that I knew what I was looking for. I knew what to focus on. So I could just chug along and do my thing, collecting wise, and move forward with that. And that was it. It was simple. And I think if you've got that going for you, so we make fun of Eric's collecting, and deservedly so, honestly. But he's got his Reggie Lemons. He's got that. He's got his other Bruins cards that he's picked up. He's got some hockey legends. He's got his it's 6970. I always get the year wrong.
Yeah, 6970.
So he's got his 6970 project. It's a very specific thing, but then that allows focus. That means if an opportunity presents itself to add something to this project that you need, well, there you go. Now you've got something to focus on. You're not just going in 50 million directions. You've got certain specific pockets, certain specific niches.
In my focus this weekend, or did you leave that just for the bearded people?
What's that?
Did you assist in my focus?
God, no, I'm not. I don't do things for you. You've got the bearded French guy. You got that going for you.
Okay.
I morally supported him.
Oh, I didn't know if anybody maybe wanted to help a brother out, but
God no. Okay. No. We've got the sleeveless one took care of you.
Okay. I owe him.
Look, he sacrificed his sleeves for you, Eric.
I think I need to sell a kidney because I think I owe him some money.
You do. I saw the cards. Listen, Yannick started the weekend with sleeves, but that was then he had no sleeves, and it's because of you.
Yeah.
Telling you, man.
I ran down to see if my daughter wanted to. My wife reached out to a few different companies since she's graduating, and one of the companies she reached out to was Tops. And I have to give them credit. I don't know what it is yet. She's ready for bed, so she didn't want to be on camera, but I was going to see. So I'll record it with her and put it on my channel. But they
Fair
sent her they didn't say what it was going to be. They sent her a little envelope of something for her graduation. So I'm curious to see what they sent her.
Okay.
I'm
That should
sure
be
it's
interesting.
something to do with F1 because my wife mentioned she loves Ferrari and F1. So we'll see what
Nice.
that is. But I wanted to see if she wanted to come up here and open it with you guys. But she said she's dressed for bed and didn't want to be on camera. So
Fair enough. Fair enough. I get it. So, bottom line here, just to put a button on it, show was great. It was a great opportunity to have conversations about a lot of fun things. Very enjoyable. Do highly recommend if some of you do get a chance to come down. The Fall Expo will be the big one. That's the one that a lot of folks will attend. But the spring has got its own charm to it. Like I said, I think the weather wasn't great, but the weather was reasonable. Although Sunday randomly we flipped the switch and suddenly got warm. It was weird. You have to be prepared. Southern Ontario weather is a weird beast at the best of times. But then when you get into that late spring period, you never know what you're gonna get. It was jacket, and suddenly Sunday, no jacket. Rain. So I don't even know. But nonetheless, it was a good time. But I also wanted to finish on that last topic because I wanted to talk about it because it's one of those things that's a recurring theme for me. And I feel sad for a lot of folks that are in the hobby. And I think part of what creates frustration for folks is they feel like they're priced out of it. And I kind of have to consistently remind people to go, well, it depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, if you're trying to do this thing where you're trying to participate in it to a level that you didn't actually want to, but you feel like you have to, well, yeah, then it's going to create a problem where like you're on a treadmill and the treadmill just goes faster and you can never catch up. You can never keep up. Eventually you're going to fall off it no matter what you do. If you're kind of chugging along at your own pace and you kind of figure out what it is that is interesting to you, there are probably a couple of ways you can make that happen and get it done. You'd be surprised how clever a lot of collectors have been over time if they're not trying to do everything at the same time. If they're not just trying to do what everybody else is doing because they tell them they should. You know, it goes back to Brandon's thing. If you don't care about Babe Ruth, well, then don't worry about getting a Babe Ruth card. I don't care what anybody says. There's no reason. You don't want a 52 mantle, well, then that shouldn't necessarily be an aspiration for you. If you do want one, well, then maybe you got to work, maybe make a plan because then you're going to have to think about that one because it's going to take some work. But not
and
impossible, but you're going to have to figure it out.
it's also okay to want it and never get it. Like, I mean, we would all probably,
It is. You can run those.
not
You can run
mind
those
if we
numbers.
had a nice Ferrari and stuff like that, but are we ever going to get one? And the likelihood is no. Eric has mentioned many times he would like to have a Boubior, but he said he's not going to spend the money on it. And as a big Boston fan, you have to respect that because he knows his place, he knows his position, and even though he would love to have one, he's basically put his foot down that it's just not something that he's going
Not
to.
financially responsible. It comes down to this is, still it's a cardboard with some guy's face on it. I can't spend $10,000 on that and tie up that kind of money from my family. It's just not responsible, and it just doesn't
And,
make sense.
and I'm sure you're kind of in the same position, Carlos. You probably not in all aspects, but a lot of the cards that I've gotten rid of, I've actually replaced or realized that I had like the archives refractor versions of them. And they, outside of being chrome and shiny, they have the same picture, they have the same back and story and stats and all of that. And I'm
Oh,
perfectly
Eric
okay
has
with
had his
that.
Boubior for some time based on this
Yeah,
premise.
but I mean, again, like he can put it on the shelf and enjoy it. Is it the real thing? No, but it looks the same. It
Do you think my
displays
wife
the
will know the
same.
difference? If I told her that's a Bobby or rookie card worth 10 grand, you think she's gonna go, no, it isn't, it's fake? She's gonna go, oh my god, what?
Sell it. She go
Sell
sell
it.
it.
Sell it.
Sell it
That
now.
depends on which part of the 10 grand that she wants to obtain in the divorce papers when she
All of it.
thinks that you spent $10,000 on a baseball or a hockey
Oh, I
card.
got it when I was a kid and appreciated.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bobby Orr cards when I first started, and you guys could tell the same stories with other stuff. The day I first started collecting, Bobby Orr cards were like $400,
Yeah.
and now they're 10 grand. So that would be quite an appreciation. And if you were able to pick one up for $400, but I couldn't afford it then either.
It is true. But even projecting it into the current day, the reason why that conversation was occurring was because, like I said, I felt bad that for a while there, I think people mistaken an interest. The same way that you can be interested in a large company making a big merger or purchase or whatever. If you're an observer, it's interesting. Does that mean that I'm buying a billion-dollar company? No. But for some reason in the hobby, we see big numbers, we see big sales, we see big things, and people feel like they need to like, oh, I got to get in on this. It's like, no, not necessarily. If it is, Brandon's right. If you can't afford it, you can't afford it. If it's never going to make sense, it's never going to make sense. But I also think if it is something aspirational to, and you want to work out a plan and figure out a way to do that and work your way up to it, and that's your desire, if that's truly what you want, you might be surprised how creative people can get if they're motivated that degree. But at the same time, it isn't necessary. But I think a lot of folks became interested in it because of the number. It became more a matter of a status symbol, and it became more important to have the status symbol versus a desire for the item. If your desire is in the item, you're going to be a hell of a lot more motivated. It'll sustain you when things are tricky to trying to work your way towards it versus, well, okay, now you got the check mark, here's your participation ribbon, your congratulations, you hit a hobby milestone. Now what? I don't get anything for that. I'm not interested in collecting participation ribbons or getting the kudos. Hey, look at this expensive card you bought. It's the same way that I always thought it was weird when some guys would brag about paying the most for the card ever. I've got a few of those, and trust me, I'm not bragging. It's like, oh, really? Oh, I'm not thrilled about that. Doesn't excite me, but I wanted the card, and that's the reason I did it. But that's the only reason why I did it.
Yeah, I might be embarrassed if I'm like, yeah, everyone else paid, $300 for that, but I paid 3,000 during the height of the boom. Yeah, I'm kind of stupid. Yeah, I don't think I'd be proud of. I'm not saying that's what you did. I'm just saying those people who did do that, I wouldn't go around bragging about it.
It is true. That is true. It happens, unfortunately. But on that bombshell, that is another episode of BSA Podcasts. More videos coming up on the channel. Live streams on Friday at Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Longest running episodic, whatever it is. We don't know. But it has been the subject of song. That is a spoiler. Maybe.
Oh, damn it. I'm going to have to try to find a way to be on Friday. I'm going to be out of town, but so I'm going to have to try to see if I can finagle a way to be on because I want to be there for that. If I can't be on, like, joining, I will definitely have to try to be in the chat.
As a tease, hopefully, I've been drinking a lot of tea with honey and lemon in it. So hopefully my voice will be ready for Friday and I will be able to perform. If not, we'll have to just push it back a week until I'm back to where I need to be, me. I'm almost there.
It's a bit rough. Just give us, 10 hail lemon M&Ms and we'll work on it.
Okay.
We'll see if that'll bless you and get you where you need to be.
Okay.
So Eric Sanderson d'Or, carrier of the Black Plague. That's what he does. Brandon, Bobbles and Ball Carts and 540 Flips, allegedly. Even though we really don't know who 540 Flips is, I have my theories. Videos on those channels, and maybe even a card-related video on the Bobbles and Ball Carts channel to be determined in the future. Who knows?
I've got a few in the works.
TBD. There you go. So we've got that coming up. And further episodes of the BIC podcast here. We've been having some fun with this, so we're going to continue that on. Also, I do want to ask you, since this episode focused predominantly on the expo and things like that, if you have any questions or any thoughts or anything you'd like us to address or touch on, we always have fun. We generally will come up with a topic to talk about. But if there is something you'd like us to address and talk about during this middle time, as we're kind of waiting for certain things to come up in the hobby, feel free. Love to have that interaction in the comments section because it also can give us ideas. If you've got something you'd like us to address or touch on, we can do that. Or we can all do or we can spend next time doing arts and crafts and Tom Brady autographs. We can all work on our bees. Very exciting.
so they don't look like
That'd be
W.
fun.
We can work on that. So that's it for this time around. Thank you very much, and we will catch you in the next one.